Maria Eagle.
Thank you, Chair. How frequently has the Judicial Diversity Forum met in the last year?
Yes, it met. Richard will give us the date a couple of weeks ago. It meets twice a
Once.
year. Sorry?
How frequently was the question?
The principals meet twice a year. That's the Lord Chief Justice, Lord Chancellor, all of us coming together. And then officials meet. Richard, you could just remind us of how often the officials group meets.
I think we've met six times in the last year.
2 meetings a year isn't exactly an urgent priority then. I'm afraid that I've been listening carefully to what you had to say, and you sound a little complacent to me. It seems to me you've had 15 years to make a real change in the diversity of judicial appointments, and yet you seem today to be effectively saying that it's as good as it can be. You said we do everything we possibly can. You've hinted that when it's been put to you that BAME people who apply consistently do worse in terms of appointments, and you've basically said, oh, well, we appoint on merit. You seem to be blaming those who don't get through the process for their failure. And that's why you've come across as complacent to me. Is that really the best that you can do?
Well, I'd like if I may...
At the current rate of progress, I mean, how long is it going to be before the senior judiciary are 50-50 women and men at the current rate of progress?
Well, if I may first apologise if I've given that impression. That is not my view at all. I haven't, I've been chair of the JAC now for 5 years, and in each of the years we have looked at what we do and brought forward what I believe to be important initiatives to drive change. I don't in any way, and I think it would be wrong, and I'd like to correct it, there is no suggestion that if candidates don't get over the line, it is a failing of particular groups. That is not the case at all. All I can say to you is that when we look at our tools, which we do very carefully, we are reassured that they are not discriminatory. Now, that is the analysis that we receive and that we look at very carefully as a board. The reason that... At
the current rate of progress, when will the senior judiciary be 50% women?
Well, I can't give you an answer to that because it depends on a variety of different factors. But where we have...
Well, you can give me an answer because it's at the current rate of progress, so that ought to be a mathematical... you can drop us a line if you can find an answer.
Is the current rate of progress acceptable?
Yeah, no, What I can say is if you look, for instance, at success in recent years in regard to gender for High Court appointment, we're seeing substantial progress. And I have chaired personally, or served as assigned commissioner personally, for the last 2 exercises for the High Court. And I can say that there are some exceedingly impressive candidates who have been appointed. And I suspect that there will be substantial and rapid progress for those candidates through the High Court to the Court of Appeal.
I'm absolutely sure that you appoint some exceptional candidates. But when do you think we'll see a representative number of Black, Asian and other minority ethnic judges in the senior judiciary? The point of these questions is that outcomes are important. That is the business you are in. So when will we see a proper representative number of BAME applicants and judges in the senior judiciary?
Well, we will see that when we are able to bring candidates through the professions into the first judicial posts and then through their service through the judiciary so they can seek the most senior appointments.
No dates. What initiatives have you led to increase the diversity of judiciary from lower socio-economic backgrounds and those with other protected characteristics?
Sarah.
Yes, could I come in here? And just to talk a little bit more about the Judicial Diversity Forum, there is in fact an 11-page action plan which came out of the the last deep statistical analysis that were done. So there are some very concrete actions which are set out there, which are going to be assessed, and the effectiveness of those measures are going to be assessed as they're carried forward. And they are actions which are being taken both by the JAC, but also by members of the profession and by the judiciary.
And when will the action plan be fully implemented?
Well, it's in the process of being implemented now, and as I mentioned, we will then assess what has been achieved. Can I just talk a little bit, though, about the solicitors' profession, because there's been quite a lot of focus on the bar. But solicitors are another underrepresented group in the judiciary, and the solicitors' profession, by and large, has been more diverse than the bar. But nevertheless, at the senior levels of the solicitor's profession, again, there is still anxiety about the pace of change, and there are not enough diverse partners within many law firms. And the actions that are being taken are coordinated actions, and that's where something like the action plan, which looks at both what the professions are doing, working with the firms, both collectively and individually, to work together so that the eligible pool of experienced lawyers can apply, are supported so that they are successful in their applications because they can demonstrate their transferable skills and demonstrate that they have the skills and the competences and the abilities to do the job that they're applying for. So it is complicated. I'm sorry if any of us come across as complacent, because absolutely that is not my experience of being a commissioner. I think there is more work that can be done, and that is why the action plan is useful, but we also need to assess that those interventions that are being made, that they're working and that we are doing something which has concrete outcomes.
Thank you. Mr. Jarvis, I mean, you are an outcomes-based organisation. That is, your role is to produce outcomes. So when are we going to see greater improvement than we've seen so far? You've been trying to do the job for 15 years and things have not improved enough. When are we going to see some real improvements?
Well, as Lord Kakar has said, this is we are part of an ecosystem that involves the legal professions and the judiciary, and together we are working to improve outcomes. Outcomes have improved, and we have taken specific initiatives, as have the professions, as had the judiciary, and progress is being made. We want to work harder to be able to evaluate what works well in this area. We are doing targeted outreach. We've got almost 100 potential candidates being supported by that team now. We are working with the other JDF partners on something called the Pre-Appointment Judicial Education Programme, again specifically targeted at underrepresented groups. I think 200 potential applicants have gone through that curricula this year. My staff and commissioners attend at least, I think, one specific outreach event every week to explain about judicial appointments and to encourage lawyers from diverse groups to prepare themselves and put in applications. My experience to the JAC is that it's wholly committed to trying to do its part to improve the judiciary of the diversity within the statutory framework which has been given, which is to
yes,
appoint.
I'm glad you're wholly committed. I appreciate that, and I'm not trying to say that nothing that you've done has been helpful. What I am expressing frustration about is the fact that you have had 15 years. Things are not much better than they were before. You're not able or willing to tell me by when we will have representative numbers of women and BAME people successfully appointed. You are an outcomes-based business and you're not achieving the outcomes. Don't seem to have any target dates by which you're going to achieve them. We could be sitting here in another 100 years and you could be telling me the same thing, by which time I would judge that your organisation had actually failed. That is what is frustrating me. I just wonder, finally, Chair, whether or not any of our panel would like to tell me whether they believe that having targets for results, targets for outcomes, would assist you in your work?
What do people think about that?
Chair, I don't think that targets are the correct approach. We have a statutory obligation to appoint on merit. There has been broad discussion about whether targets could be used, should be used, but there are a number of reasons why it's considered inappropriate. However, what I would say is that we have been deeply committed, and we are committed to outcomes. We are committed to delivering our statutory duties. They are to appoint on merit, that's what Parliament asks of us, and to ensure the most diverse pool that we are able to attract seeking judicial appointment. I think that there is a fair question that you're raising about whether this particular approach, as defined in the statutory scheme, is the approach that should be taken, but it is the approach at the moment that statute demands.
Fair enough.
I'm afraid that this is my last point from me, Chair.
Yeah, okay.
I'm afraid
Yeah,
that it seems to me that you appear to be saying that the reason why we don't have appropriate representation is because the candidates aren't sufficiently meritorious. And I just think that completely ignores any concept or understanding of discrimination and indirect discrimination and structural problems. No. And I'm afraid that you still sound complacent to me, but that's all from me. Thank you, Chair.
Well, if I may, Chair, just answer that. And again, I wish to apologise to the member because that is not what I'm saying, and I'm not expressing myself very well. What we have said is that there are a number of reasons why the appointments process cannot be considered in itself distinct from the rest of the ecosystem around us. The professional experience and development of candidates and the skills and experience that they're able to present to the appointments process. We are trying to address all of those. You've heard about our outreach programme. We have now about 100 candidates who are being supported, specifically targeted, to help them in the judicial appointments process. We have the PAGE programme, working with our partners in the legal professions, which is providing greater support. There are a number of initiatives that we hope we are going to be able to take forward as we look at an analysis of how other common law jurisdictions are doing judicial appointments. So we are not complacent at all. All I'm saying is that within the framework at the moment, of course there's more that we can do. That's why we look at everything on a regular basis. That's why we're going to initiate some further reviews of what we're doing. And we are always open to receiving advice and further guidance on how we might improve our processes and systems. But I can't accept that we are discriminatory and that we have failed to put effort and attention on a regular basis in trying to achieve what we all want to do, which is to achieve a greater diversity in the judiciary, both in terms of gender, in terms of minority ethnic candidates, in terms of disability, and in terms of social mobility.